Morning, everybody. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to you about a vision of Network 2020 and where I see the world is heading. I'm going to try and make it as devoid of intense technology as possible, because the world in 2020 is going to be driven by a number of other factors, both political and demographic and so forth. There is an estimate that by 2050, 2060, we'll see about 2.5 billion extra people on planet Earth. Now, this is good news for us because we're selling services and we want more people to buy these services. But the reality is that it's also going to put a lot of squeeze on us, because at the same time we're going to meet something called growth limits. Now, the growth limits means that things are going to become harder to get. The sorts of things that we're looking at is technology for the next 1 or 2 billion people, improved collaboration, sustainable growth, the digitization of society, how we deal with peak oil, peak limits and those sort of things, and of course things like inclusive growth, food security and so forth. If we look at where the opportunity lies, we can see we've moved from, in the last 100 years, providing basically 4 services, voice, video, voice data, SMS and picture messaging, through one of over-the-top services. As we move forward over the next 10 years, we're likely to see the emergence of a number of smart services. So the smart energy, smart education, the smart cities, and any other smart type services that you can think of. If we start to look at these services in a couple of key areas, we can see that Network 2020 is bigger than just a network. It's about how do we manage our resources more efficiently? How do we develop an improved energy system? Because as we move into 2020, what we're going to have to do is figure out how do we do energy harvesting and how do we do energy distribution. It's no longer about just burning coal for the creation of energy. It's about how do we create energy out of greener sources. Sustainability really is about 4 things that we need to manage within our control. One is the people, machines and things that we can connect to our networks. Probably don't have much control over that because our industry is going to grow and grow, and we're expected to have 50 billion or more devices by 2025, 2030, with some people claiming that there'll be 2 trillion devices by 2050. On the left here we can see what a typical smart city would like to monitor and manage. So they want to know about wastewater and noise and emissions and air quality and all that sort of stuff, which is great. It's what I would call the early stages of smart cities. It's the exoskeleton that we're putting around smart cities. That information only becomes valuable once we start to understand how is the air quality impacting maybe on things like asthma. It only becomes beneficial when we start to look at that across the 9 different vertical areas and we start to understand how we can make improvements. On the far left, my left, your right, is the energy system. It's an energy system that has to move away from big energy companies burning gas or coal or oil and creating energy out of that, towards one where everybody is harnessing energy either through solar, wind, wave, tidal, or whatever other collector source that we can get, and it's about distribution. So I hope you can see that Network 2020 really is about putting ICT at the heart of complexity and at the heart of systemic services, allowing us to enable ICT to have its day by being part of those 9 verticals, being part of the systemic interaction of those 9 verticals, and more importantly, about using the data to benefit us in a way that allows us to identify and understand the value that we haven't seen in the past, value that as we move forward and we learn more and more, emerges and becomes more and more obvious to us to make changes. So that fundamentally is where I see Network 2020 heading as we move forward over time.
I do enjoy it very much because the presentation itself is very informative. And as you see that most operators, including ourselves, are actually paying attention to the near future. But then the mid and the future, longer future, has to be considered. So I think 2020 does give people a very good insight into the future.